Middle Ages, it was common for believers to carry or wear medals invoking religious figures for protection. The gold nobles of Edward III bore text which translated to, "Jesus passing through the midst of them went his way." Travelers carried these gold nobles as a talisman against thieves and other dangers on their journeys. Soldiers carried them into battle for protection. Medals bearing the image of Saint Michael the Archangel were often used as touch pieces, items touched by a monarch, used to ward off what was known as the king's evil, or scrofula, a disease of swollen lymph nodes caused by tuberculosis. Different medals were used as protection from the devil and various physical ailments, often bearing images and legends related to one saint or another, whose patronage was deemed effective for addressing the particular needs of the wearer. The practice continues today with a vast number of saint medals available to the faithful. Some medals are used by those who ask for assistance or protection in their employment or daily activities. For instance, St. Michael medals today are sometimes worn by those in the military or law enforcement. Medals bearing Saint Hubert's image, or that of the mystic stag from his legend, have been worn by hunters since the Middle Ages, invoking the saint's protection during hunting and also from rabies, a disease which carried an almost certain death sentence before the vaccine. That is, unless one was lucky enough to have the infected wound treated quickly with a device known as Saint Hubert's key. It is thought Saint Hubert was born in Toulouse sometime around the year 656. He was the eldest son of a Duke of the Aquitaine named Bertrand. At the age of 10, Hubert almost died due to a fever. After this, he was sent to the court of Theodoric III, King of Neustria, which was located in present-day western France. While at the court of Theodoric, Hubert earned the title of Count of the Palace. Sometime around the year 682, Hubert married Floribane, the daughter of Dagobert, the Count of Leuven. Moving to the Austrasian court, Hubert soon earned the title of Grand Master of the household. Floribane died while giving birth to a son, Floribert, which caused Hubert to withdraw from the courtly life. He retired to the forest, occupying his troubled mind only with hunting. One Good Friday morning, as the faithful were in church, Hubert was hunting in the deep woods. He saw a magnificent white stag, which he pursued for a time. Suddenly the stag turned and faced Hubert. A shining crucifix appeared between its antlers, and Hubert heard a voice which said, "Hubert, Hubert, how long will you pursue wild animals and waste the time given to work out your salvation? Unless you turn to the Lord and lead a holy life, you shall quickly fall into hell." Hubert dismounted his horse and knelt, addressing the vision. "Lord, what would you have me do?" The voice replied, "Go and seek Lambert. He will instruct you." It is believed Hubert went to Stavelot Monastery in Belgium, where he was kindly received by Saint Lambert, Bishop of Maastricht. Still shaken from his vision, Hubert fell to his knees and wept before Saint Lambert. Eventually, Hubert was able to relate the story of his miraculous vision, and begged the saint to show him the path to righteousness, so he would not be cast into hell. Lambert advised Hubert to make a full confession and likewise to trust the mercy of God. Hubert returned home a changed man. He sought only to serve God. He renounced all of his titles and gave both his son and birthright to his brother Odo. He distributed his wealth to the poor and went into the forest where he saw the white stag. There he stayed as a hermit for 7 years. Eventually, he was ordained a priest by Lambert. While Hubert was on pilgrimage to Rome in 705, Saint Lambert was assassinated, as he had admonished the king for living an unchaste life. Angels carried Saint Lambert's pastoral staff to Rome and placed it on the altar at St. Peter's. Saint Lambert's murder was revealed to Pope Sergius in a vision, during which he was also directed to appoint the pilgrim Hubert as the new bishop of Maastricht. Finding the staff on the altar, Pope Sergius was compelled to obey the vision and sought Hubert among the pilgrims. Upon seeing Hubert, Pope Sergius immediately recognized him from his vision. The Pope took Hubert by the hand and led him to the altar, saying, "Your teacher, Saint Lambert, has been killed by wicked people, but is already crowned in heaven, and you shall become his successor." Hubert at first refused the title of Bishop of Maastricht, but an angel appeared bearing a beautiful white and gold stole for Hubert, a gift from the Virgin Mary, and a letter of counsel advising Hubert to obey the will of God. Hubert was ordained Bishop of Maastricht. As bishop, Hubert was known for his eloquence in preaching, his generosity to the poor, and his devotion to prayer and fasting. In the year 720, following instructions which came to him in a vision, Hubert had Saint Lambert's remains removed from Maastricht to Liège, which was at that time only a small village. Here Hubert constructed a church to house the saint's relics. Liège would grow into a city around the church, which itself grew to become a cathedral. Hubert became the first bishop of Liège. Upon his consecration as Bishop of Liège, it was said that Hubert received a vision of St. Peter, who presented Hubert with a golden key and informed him that God had given him power over evil spirits. Shortly after these events, Hubert cured a man who had been bitten by a rabid dog. He did this by heating the key until it was red hot, then plunging it into the wound. As a note, gold will melt before it becomes red hot, so perhaps Hubert's key was brass or some unknown alloy. Thereafter, Hubert was called to intercede for those infected with the deadly virus. Hubert would often venture into the wildest parts of the country, preaching the gospel. One day, Hubert led a procession through the fields, singing the litany of the saints. The procession was interrupted by a woman who was said to be possessed by a demon. Hubert made the sign of the cross over the woman, who was immediately silenced and restored to health. On another occasion, Hubert was able to restore a woman's hands, as they had been withered beyond use. While Hubert was bishop, there was a time of intense drought, during which the Meuse River almost dried up. Through Hubert's dedicated prayers, an abundant rain was called to end the drought. A year before his death, Hubert was given a vision of both his demise and his place in heaven afterward. 12 months later, Hubert fell sick. During his final illness, after receiving the last rites, Hubert began to see vast numbers of demons attempting to approach him. He asked for holy water, and after sprinkling his bed and himself, he drove away the evil spirits. Raising his eyes to heaven, Hubert said the Lord's Prayer and the Apostles' Creed, and then died. Saint Hubert passed on May 30th of the year 727. His body was taken to Liège, where he was buried, the rod used to measure Saint Hubert's tomb miraculously lengthened and was kept in the church. During his reign, King Charlemagne received a revelation that the relics of Saint Hubert should be translated to Ardennes. Unsure of this instruction, Charlemagne turned to the clergy for advice. After fasting for 3 days and praying for direction, the holy men placed 2 books upon the altar. Opening one of the tomes, they found the words, Dirige viam famulae tui, direct the way of your servant. The following day, the clerics, accompanied by a procession comprised of nobles and common folk alike, went to Saint Hubert's tomb. When the grave was open, they found the saint's body incorrupt. Upon hearing this news, Charlemagne himself, accompanied by his wife, barons, and many of his knights, came to see the miracle. The king kissed Saint Hubert's hands and feet and carried the body to the altar himself, where he left offerings of gold and precious gems. Later, Saint Hubert's relics were moved again when monks established the Abbey of Saint Hubert in Ardennes. Some legends assert that the stag further communicated to Saint Hubert ethical hunting practices, that animals should be held in high regard as God's creatures, that hunters should only shoot when they are assured of a quick, clean kill so that animals will not suffer, that only aged stags past their breeding years should be shot, and that mother animals with young in tow should never be shot. This legacy of Saint Hubert is still taught in some hunters' education classes today. Hubert himself, however, renounced hunting after his vision. He believed that hunting had distracted him from God on Good Friday. Appropriately, the monks at the Abbey of Saint Hubert were known for their special breed of hunting hounds. Originally bred to hunt boar, these dogs are the ancestors of what we call bloodhounds today. It is a tradition to have hunting dogs blessed on or around Saint Hubert's feast day in a ceremony known as the Blessing of the Hounds. After his death, pilgrims came to Saint Hubert's shrine in the hope that he would cure them or protect them from rabies. The monks at Saint Hubert's Abbey began issuing pieces of iron known as Saint Hubert's key. Shaped like nails, crosses, or cones, these charms were hung on the walls of houses or kept on the person as protection against rabies. Saint Hubert's keys were also heated and applied to bite wounds thought to have been caused by rabid animals. If applied early enough, the heated iron could both cauterize the wound and kill the rabies virus. The application of Saint Hubert's key was often done by a priest, who would also prick the patient's forehead and wrap the wound in a black bandage for 9 days. Both humans and dogs were sometimes branded with Saint Hubert's key as a protective measure against rabies. In the 1800s, the French held the practice in such high regard that a brand from Saint Hubert's key on a dog was noted as a sure preventative of madness. Saint Hubert's key was used as treatment and preventative for rabies until the early 20th century. Another cure for rabies could be obtained from Saint Hubert's stole. A priest would make an incision on the patient's forehead and insert a thread taken from Saint Hubert's stole before applying a bandage to the incision. The monks at Saint Hubert's Abbey were empowered to grant pilgrims a supernatural respite from rabies for a specific period ranging from 40 days to 99 years. Saint Hubert's feast day is November 3rd. He is the patron saint of hunters, archers, dogs, forest workers, trappers, metal workers, opticians, mathematicians, and liège. Saint Hubert's intercession is invoked as protection against dog bites and rabies. My sources for this episode can be found in the show notes at thefloweredpath.com. I would like to thank my new patrons, Kevin Nolan, Patrick Kyle, North, and Amy Beckwith. If you are wondering where episode 6 went, that was a patron episode in which I interviewed Tiger Jin about his personal experiences with Saint Gemma Galgani in dreams, intercession, and synchronicities. Exclusive episodes will occasionally be made available to patrons at the Rose and Orchid tiers. Rose and Orchid tier patrons also get shout-outs on the show. Orchid tier patrons get monthly merch mailings. So far, they have received vinyl stickers and ceramic mugs with the Flowered Path logo. I have a lot of ideas for merch in the future. All patrons get the regular episodes of the Flowered Path ad-free, often before they drop on the regular podcast feed. To check out all of the patron options and benefits, and to help me continue to make the Flowered Path, go to patreon.com/thefloweredpath. You can also find a PayPal link if you want to make a one-time donation. Just click the support button at thefloweredpath.com and look for the PayPal button that says donate. Speaking of those Flowered Path mugs, I have a few extra which I've put in the Etsy shop. If anyone is interested in purchasing one, the shop name is Lost Grave. You can find it at etsy.com/shop/lostgrave. I've put a section for the Flowered Path in the shop where I will add merch and artwork related to the show. Please like and subscribe the Flowered Path wherever you are listening. If you are inclined to leave a nice review, that will help as well. The Flowered Path is on YouTube, so please subscribe to our channel. And no matter where you listen, if you like what you hear, please share the episodes on social media. You can find The Flowered Path on Facebook, facebook.com/thefloweredpath, or on Instagram at The Flowered Path, and on the web at thefloweredpath.com. I'm still preparing the multi-part show I discussed at the start of the bonus episode. While I'm getting that together, you may get some more episodes on individual saints. Thank you for your patience. I have a lot of interesting stories for future episodes, so stay tuned. And thank you for listening. I'll be back soon with more.